Everything is crazy these days when you get pulled over, man. That's comes to our news of the day because, Mel, you down in Atlanta, so it's been wild this weekend as, man, George Floyd's body ain't even in the ground good. And we already got another dead black man at the hands of the police officers in Atlanta. Gary Rolfe shot Rayshard Brooks in the back 2 times, man, after a DUI stop or whatever. And as he was running away from him, the mayor is calling for reform. Gary Rolfe got fired. The police chief stepped down. It's a lot happening right now. And it's just like, you think it's going to end and it never does. What's happening?
Mm-hmm. It's exhausting. It really is. Like, we're having to we're protesting police brutality and then have more police brutality happen while we're protesting police brutality. It's like, we're like, hey, can you stop killing us? And they were like, no. And then here we are.
Yeah. I mean, 21 days. It hasn't been 21 days since the protest started. Like I said, we just buried George Floyd last week, Donnie, Nick, and once again, here we go once again with another police officer under scrutiny, which he should be, for shooting the man as he's running away. And they had his information already, shooting him in the back, and you knew he was unarmed even though he had a taser in his hand.
Yeah, number one, Mike, we need reform quick. I don't believe in defunding the police. I believe in reforming the police so charges can happen just like any other individual. When you do something bad, when you shoot at a non-armed individual, they need to be charged with murder. And it's clearly that this dude was, running away, had no weapon, and these cowards shot him. I call them cowards because anytime you shoot somebody in the back, you're a coward. You hit somebody in the back. You hit somebody in the back. You shoot somebody in the back when they turn. You run away. You're a coward. And those cops were cowards. And man, they need to be charged to the fullest of the law. Attempted first degree murder, because that was first degree murder. And we have to keep on protesting until they get first degree murder, man. That's how I feel about it. They didn't show no compassion for that dude. You gotta have some compassion for a human being when he's running away. They could have stopped Mike. They had his license plate. They had his car. Mm-hmm. They was gonna find him. And for them to do that, man, they some cowards, dude. That's how I feel.
Yeah, the district attorney said charges could be coming as early as Wednesday. He was on CNN earlier and said that he's considering up to 3 charges, including 2 forms of homicide and, of course, manslaughter as well. So, Nick, I mean, just think about it, man. As a black man in this country, once again, you think that we're making progress, and then something like this comes and it just kind of sets you back again.
I mean, I always ask myself just how deep are the psychological tests that we're giving these officers, and what I mean by that is, and I hate to say it, like, I have a lot of friends of color who are police officers, and there's a lot of background checks. Like, they go all the way to their aunties, uncle, they check their background records. And I'm like, well, some of these police officers, how deep are we going into their background? You understand what I'm saying? Like, just how deep are you going? Are you just going into like, hey, do you like people? And they're like, yeah, of course we do. And then they're out there just shooting people. Like, they gotta dig deeper, man, because these are people who are like, and in my thoughts, I believe these are people that glorify Klans members. These are people that already don't like us, already have rape. Like, I can't wait to become a cop to kill off black people. When you look at the George Floyd video and you just watch, like, it's so hard to watch it. But when I watched that photo of that man with his knee in his neck and the face he had, that was joy in his face. And we gotta hold our police departments and everything accountable of how far are you going with these tests. You know?
Yeah. It's a lack of humanity, it almost appears, Mel.
So I think with, like, the racism is so systematic, and it's, we have black cops that are problematic as well, but like they doing these checks, they're calling other white supremacists to vouch for the white supremacists. So of course they're gonna give them a thumbs up, and that's how deep it is. They're like, and a lot of these racist cops are 2nd and 3rd and 4th generation cops. And you think about the origin of cops to begin with, they started with slave catchers, and that's really what it comes from. So the system itself is flawed, and that's why we are here today. And that's why, we do want to reform. And when they say defund, it's not to take all the money away from the cops. It's like the fact that cops have full tanks and body armors and bazooka guns, but teachers are asking for copy paper from their students' parents. That's the problem.
They got to demilitarize the cops. Carrying these assault rifles and the chokeholds, and that's when they defund, So they got to reform in a sense where they take away the chokeholds, Donnie, where they hold the cops more responsible to make it a crime, because it's nearly impossible to not only charge somebody, but to convict cops these days because they're so protected, not only by the unions, but just because they're cops and all they got to do is say, basically, I was afraid for my life. But when you sign up for this job, Donnie, aren't you? That's like working in the mine. You know the risk of signing up for this job. You knew it.
It's a mindset, you guys. And at the end of the day, I feel like you have to stop hiring police that's not that's not from your community. You got to get those that's in your community that know your people. You know what I'm saying? Because when you get people from outside your community, you know, they don't look at us the same way we look at our own brothers and sisters. So we have to stop that. You have to me, you have to be, if you're a part of that that community, you can be hired as a police officer. If you're not, you have to go to your community and police your community. That's the way I feel it. And most of it will stop. You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Teresa Marlene, one of our viewers, chiming in saying no threat running away. They had his info, his license plate, driver's license, and could have easily tracked him down. It boils down to ego. And that's true, because that man, Rashad, beat their asses and took their taser away from him and was running away. Now, he did turn around, as Pierre Jones is mentioning, that Donnie, that dude had a taser, he fired at police, but he ain't deserved to die. We know that. So we talked about reform, but can we go a little deeper here?
Yes,
Can
sir.
I ask you, because this, especially Donnie and Nick and also Mel, these days we on edge, man. We are really on edge. We get pulled over by the police. We are either incensed or we scared for our lives. I'm serious. I know if I got pulled over, I'd probably be scared as shit, you know, not knowing if I'm going to make it back home. So when they start to talk crazy to you, or they start to arrest you or harass you, sometimes it's hard not to resist because you're afraid of what might happen. It's that PTSD that's in our head right now. So how do we find that line? Because we understand you're in that position. How do we comply, in a sense, not resist, so that we can make it back home to our families?
I'm going to be honest with you, man. I feel like there's no answer. I feel like we just got to pray. We just have to pray every time we go outside, because, you know, it's a shame that I can't walk past an officer and not feel like this is my last day on earth. It's a shame that I can't, you know, see one of my friends walk out in the street and not think that, man, you know, this police officer is going to take advantage. You know, I feel like when you're a police officer, you have a lot of cops. They're like, there's good cops out here, but so when you are good cops, what are you telling the bad cops? Like when you see people of your color being killed, are you going down to the racist cops and telling them it's not right? So I put them all under the same hat. Every cop, no matter good cop, bad cop, I see a cop. And when I'm outside, I just got God over me, man. I'm praying like, look, man, I just hope today is right. I hope when this officer pulls me over, listen, I don't even drive. And I was in a driver's seat. I was in the passenger side, and I had a cop pull me over and throw me on the hood for wrongful identity. Like, and you know what they say to you? Oh, sorry, mistaken identity. And you embarrass me in front of a bunch of people and go about your business.
Yep.
But I can't be like, this is not right, because I got to stay mute because I might not make it. And a lot of people will say, well, man, don't, like, you know, I have friends that be like, don't let them cops do that to you. But I'm sorry. I have a daughter. Right. She needs a father.
Right.
So I might just have to take whatever it is and then try to fight it later. That's just my mindset when I think of cops now.
Right. Right. Well said, man. Who's all been in that position before? Where you just harassed, you've been profiled? I mean, I know I've been there several times and whatnot when it comes to the cops. And that's far too often in our community, Don.
That happened to me many a times, but, you know, it is what it is. You know, when you grow up in the inner city, you know, they always riding down the street looking at you. They even stare at you crazy. Yeah, you know what I mean? Looking for you to stare at them back so they can turn around and say, what you looking at? Well, fuck, I'm looking at you. You get what I'm saying? So, you know, sometimes they try to start the conversation. You know, it's like, it's just terrible, man. You know, it's like my man Nick say, what do you do when you have a person that's licensed to kill? What do you do?
Donnie, what you just said something, man, that makes me so sad. Because as Black people, man, we have dealt with this type of racism and harassment our entire lives. And you said it is what it is. It's almost like, man, you know, this is just how it is being Black. That's a trauma. People, if you're not Black, you don't understand. You don't get, man. So, I mean, look, I don't know what else we can do, man. I heard some people talking about I do believe that the cops still have to do their job as long as they're police officers. You know, if the man needed to be arrested, I hope he would have just gotten arrested and seen another day or whatnot. I heard some people saying let him go or whatever, whatnot. I don't believe in having total immunity, but at the same time, there was no need for that man to die that night at all.
If you watch the video, he was like, well, I can just walk to my sister's house. Like, he was given valid, you know, options. And still, I mean, to what Nick said, there really is no formula to not getting killed by police. Like, Breonna Taylor got killed in her sleep. And as a Black woman, cops are killing us too. Yeah. Corinne Gaines got killed in front of her babies. You know what I'm saying? Sandra Bland got killed and they said she killed herself. And her mugshot still haunts me to this day. I feel like as Black people, there's no amount of degrees you can have on a suit. You know what I'm saying? MLK got arrested and beaten suits all the time. Yep. Like, there's no formula to not get your skin weaponized by police. There's nothing you can do. It's just Blackness. And that's really what it falls down to. Like, you just can't. That's why we have to do something about the system itself, because it's nothing. I mean, we just existing and they're like, what are you up to?
Yeah. Well, they see us as criminals. They look at our skin as criminals. Like, that's a uniform for being a criminal, to be honest with you. That's
you know what? And you know, it's sad. You know, I was talking to my a couple of friends about this. If you know the history of how gangs started, the true history, they were there to be our protection.
Right.
You know, when gangs were first started. And, you know, it's kind of sad because when I look at what's going on, I'm like, well, what do you guys feel about what you see happening to us? You know, where is our defense? And it's to that point where I don't want to promote violence, but we need to have our protection at this point, because if nobody else is protecting us, then who do we have? You know what I'm saying? Like, I was just watching Panther, once again, which is one of my favorite movies. And if you watch that movie and you look at the history of how the Panthers started, that was our group that was out to protect us. And it's like, what's that next wave for us?
And that's a good point. But here's the thing, we have to stay on that, because once we start using those rights that they've been using for years, they try and change the rights, because the Panthers used their Second Amendment rights. And then all of a sudden, this is the only time that the NRA came out against gun control. Yeah. The Panthers marched up in Sacramento. I mean, so we got to understand that we not only have to vote Donny, Nick, and Mel, but we got to have the right people in office. We got to keep them in office and make sure we keep the pressure on them, because even though we're making strides, man, we got to keep the damn foot on the pedal forever. Forever.